Welcome to Spiritual Foundations for Life. This is episode 165. Elijah was truly a man of God. He had just witnessed God display his power against the prophets of Baal, according to 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 16 to 45. And when Jezebel heard of it, she sent a messenger to Elijah who said in 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 2, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." Basically as a threat to kill him. So this incredible man of God who had just seen this incredible miracle was afraid, and he ran for his life. He left his servant in Beersheba, and he went a day's journey into the desert. And then he cried out in despair in 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 4. He said, "I have had enough, Lord. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors." And then he lay down and he went to sleep. Elijah was exhibiting many of the classic signs of depression. He was afraid. Excuse me. He was afraid. He was fatigued. He felt like a helpless failure. He was isolated and all alone. And that can easily happen after a mountaintop experience. Brimming with confidence and energized with victory, Elijah suddenly found himself vulnerable. See, confidence in God can easily turn into self-confidence when we let our guard down. And God in his mercy prescribed some food and rest for the discouraged Elijah. And in 1 Kings chapter 19 verses 5 and 6 it says, "All at once an angel touched Elijah and said, 'Get up and eat.' He looked around, and there by his head was a cake of bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water." See, we can become depressed when our electrolytes are depleted and our bodies are malfunctioning due to lack of nutrition, as was probably the case for Elijah. And God addressed those deficiencies by prescribing some food and some rest. Our mental health is dependent on a proper balance of rest, exercise, and diet. And in addition, probably Elijah was suffering from post-adrenal exhaustion. See, our adrenal glands respond to stress by secreting cortisone into our bloodstream. And if the stress becomes too great, our adrenal glands can't keep up. And stress becomes distress, and our system starts to break down. And this often happens to driven people who work until they collapse in exhaustion and depression. However, the defining case of Elijah's depression was not physical. This faithful servant had always been obedient to God. The Lord asked Elijah twice in 1 Kings chapter 19 verses 9 and 13, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And Elijah replied in 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 10, "I've been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. And here's the lie, I am the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too." He believes something in his head. See, Elijah ran because he believed a lie, not because God sent him into the wilderness. And Elijah wasn't the only one left. According to 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 18, there were 7,000 others who had not bowed their knees to Baal. See, God was not asking Elijah or us to establish his kingdom program or to bring justice on those who had not kept his covenant. He was simply asking Elijah and us to trust him and follow him where he leads. God will bring judgment and establish his kingdom in his way and in his timing. It is neither for us to decide or for us to accomplish. Although Elijah was zealous for God's work, he was wrong to assume sole responsibility for getting the job done. And see, those who buy into Elijah's complex are vulnerable to the enemy's lies, and they may end up mentally depressed and physically exhausted. Our key point today is believing the enemy's lies after a mountaintop experience will lead you to a place God has not called you or led you. Our key verse, 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 3, Elijah was afraid and he ran for his life. See you tomorrow for another episode of Spiritual Foundations for Life.